Today I'm going to try to remake the Pirates of the Caribbean theme song using only free plugins. That includes all the instruments and mixing as well. And of course, I'm going to link all of the plugins I use in the description. So first I'm going to load up some strings, and Orchestral Tools has this really great free string ensemble called Helix as part of their sine player. And kind of the catch is you only get spiccatos and sustains, but I think these spiccatos... Yeah, I mean, that sounds better than the string libraries that I've paid for. Alright, that was terrible. I'm gonna go ahead and clean that up. Cool. And now what I'm gonna do is actually highlight everything and humanize and just add a little bit of note start variety, since I have everything quantized perfectly, which is going to sound a little too robotic for me. So with everything cleaned up, this is what it sounds like. Sweet. And then what I'm actually going to do is have a separate track for the low strings, because later I'm going to EQ these a little differently. So I think what I'm going to do is use the sustains for the low strings. Yeah, that'll sound good. I didn't really do anything crazy here. I just kind of cleaned it up a little bit and added a little bit of variety in the volume. So there's this really great free contact pack by Project Sam, and it works with the free contact player, which is what I'm using here. And it has all kinds of fun things here, but what we're going to be using is, I think it's the Pandora Bursts. Yeah, so that is a little dramatic, and I can't really use it as a consistent brass necessarily, but I think we'll have a little bit of use for that in the beginning. Alright, so it's not perfect. Alright, so I went ahead and just duplicated this and then lowered it an octave, and I think that sounds a little bit better for now. Project Sam also has this heroic horns, which is pretty good. On its own, it sounds a little fake, but I think in the mix and the blend with the strings, that's going to do the trick. Cool, that's sounding pretty decent actually. And what we're going to do is also humanize the start range, copy it, and go ahead and paste it. And you'll notice I put the start of the notes a little bit earlier than the actual downbeat, because I noticed it was a little late on the attack. So now it fits a little better. Never mind, that does not fit better. So now it's lining up nicely with the strings. Alright, not too impressive yet, but we're going to add a few more things, and I think the percussion's really going to help open up this mix. So on that second verse, chorus, I think I'm hearing some sort of choral texture come in. So what I have here is Labs from Spitfire, which is one of the best free instruments ever, and they have this really great choir sound. Yeah, I think that's going to sound pretty good. So the way to get this to sound a little more natural is kind of not to end each chord like directly aligned with the bar, to kind of have it almost fade into the next one, almost as if the voices die out one at a time. Usually the low note dies out and then the high note dies out a little bit afterwards. And I think that makes it sound a little bit more blended. Also make sure to kind of extend notes where you can. Like for this D here, I wouldn't want to just have it duplicated like that. It sounds a little better to have it just naturally flow out. And I'll do a little bit of automation here. And then this is going to be die out. Now I know this isn't actually in the original, but I think we're missing out on some low end from this mix, and it's just because I can't really find a good free low brass to back up these chords. So what I'm actually going to do is This is a free bass guitar. Let's see what that sounds like. Alright, cool. We'll keep it for now, and then if it doesn't sound right at the end, then we'll just take it out. Sign Player also has a really great free percussion pack called Dynamo. And it's not going to be perfect, but I think we'll be able to work with it. I'm running out of colors to choose from. Alright, so now we have to add those big hits on 4. And I really like Back to Dynamo. They have this great sound here. So I'm also going to use these low tom hits from the Dynamo pack, and I think that's going to add a nice texture to the percussion. So I've also got these mid toms, which I like the sound of a lot. And I'm actually just going to copy and paste the exact same notes that the dun dun is playing, because I'm really just using this mid tom for an extra layer to make the sound just a little bit bigger, not really adding any new material. I like that. I like this sound. Yeah. Something is messed up. Alright, I think we're starting to get somewhere with that. And now I'm just going to add a few more hits just to layer things up and to create a little more interesting percussion sound. And there's a lot of great sounds in this Dynamo pack, so I'm still just using that. And equally important as the drums are actually the cymbals, which are really going to help open up our mix and add some high ends, which we desperately do need right now. So I've actually returned over to Spitfire Labs because I was looking for a ride cymbal sound and I couldn't quite find one I liked on Sign Player, but that's all I wanted, just that sound, and that's going to be perfect. So there's another free percussion library part of Sign, and it's Gearbox Studio Percussion, and there is a great tambourine sound that we're going to be using. So there's a few different crash sounds throughout the original, and I found this one here, which I quite enjoy, so I'm going to use that for a few of the hits. I think we're actually pretty much done here. There's only one more sound I want to add, and that's this dirty tam-tam ensemble sound from Dynamo. Cool, I think we're ready to mix. Okay, so now what I've done is I've just rendered out all of the stems, so all of the individual audio files for the instruments, and it's just going to make our mixing process a lot faster and more organized. So the first thing I'm going to do is just go ahead, listen to this, and just change the volume of everything, because there's a lot of balancing issues going on, so just adjusting the volume of everything to get the best possible starting mix. Cool, that's already a lot better. So now I'm just going to go through all of the individual instruments and add a few things to make them sound a little bit cleaner, tighter, an EQ, a compressor, reverb, etc. So let's get started on that with the strings. So I've just added the default EQ in my DAW, and any program you have should have something very similar. So these strings already sound really good, but I'm just going to go ahead and roll off the lows and kind of start to see where it... So here we can definitely hear it. Okay, so like I said, I have a different track for my low strings because I want those to be EQ'd differently, so I don't mind cutting out some of the low end here on my high strings. And I'll go ahead and listen if there's any other things I don't like. I think maybe just a small cut there. And it's very subtle, but I think that's going to help clean up the mix a little bit. And now I would do like a high shelf to boost kind of the high ends, but there's actually a really great free plugin that I'm going to use called Fresh Air, which I think does a bit better job. So all this is going to do, you can really hear it, just adds a lot of high presence. So I'm not going to do that much, but something like that. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I like that. Now I'm going to do a simple compressor. It's this is a free one called TDR Molotok. And I'm gonna put the ratio maybe somewhere 2.5. So I don't actually want to hear the compressor. Like here you can tell this is heavily compressed, but I wanted to just help tighten up the mix. Maybe the attack should be a little slower. Yeah, I like that. And I want my strings to feel really huge. So I'm going to use another great free plugin called Ozone Imager 2. And this shows you the stereo kind of field, and you can just drag this width up. And it just really makes it sound huge. So I'll add a little bit of that. And now all I've done is added a little bit of reverb. I'm just using the Space Light plugin, and it's free, and it just, you only get a few options here, but I think Hall Long works pretty well for this mix. Just 10%. So I'm actually just going to copy and paste all of these over to my low strings. But like I said, I'm going to tweak the EQ a bit. So this is all I've done. I've just cut off the extreme low end, which is useless for this, and boosted here a little bit just to give it a little more presence on the bass. And then this frequency was kind of annoying, so I tamed that a little bit. And I'm also gonna lower the fresh air. I don't think this is super necessary, but I'll keep it on there a little bit. I'll keep a little bit of reverb, a little bit less though. And yeah, let's EQ out the super lows a little bit. Oh, and since this is our kind of bass sound, I don't want it to be super wide, so we can go ahead and delete that. Okay, for the choir, I'm just gonna copy and paste over this fresh air, the compressor, the imager, and the reverb, and then I'll do a slightly different EQ. I'm gonna kind of cut out this low end because I really don't want this muddying up the mix. Maybe a little bit less. For the brass sound, I'm just going to go ahead and copy that compressor, also the fresh air, probably not the imager. I'll copy the reverb, and let's hear that. Yeah, I don't think this needs a ton of EQ, but so I've just gone ahead and kind of cut out a little bit of the super low ends. Yeah, let's just copy and paste this all over again. As you can tell, I don't do a crazy detailed mix, but it's really just about cleaning it up, balancing things, and then making it sound as big as possible. Yeah, I love this fresh air plugin. It really just opens it up so much more. Alright, bass guitar. I'm just going to copy the compressor, and I think that's it because I don't want to add any reverb or stereo imaging to this. I just want it to be in the center, and since I'm using this bass guitar to kind of fill in for that missing low end from the low brass, I don't really want to hear a guitar sound necessarily, so I might just take out all these highs. The percussion would be a little bit trickier because I want it to sound really huge, but let's just start with the bass drum. So let's go ahead and copy the compressor. Yeah, that's fine. Also the fresh air. Yeah, I like it. And what I want to do with the EQ here is, this definitely is going to have some rumble. That isn't necessary. Yeah, that's already fine. And let's just listen here. I kind of like this thumping sound. Let's start with the same compressor, the same fresh air. Alright, this one I can tell there's a lot of frequencies that I don't quite love, so let's see if we can get rid of some of them. I don't need this low end. I don't like that. Let's get rid of that. Yeah, I don't like whatever that sound is. I'm happy with that. It's not perfect, but you know, I'm not an expert at EQ, so that will have to do for now. And let's go ahead and stereo image that. And some reverb. Before. And this is after. So it's a pretty big difference. That just opens it up a lot more, spreads it out, gets rid of some of those muddy frequencies. And I'm really just going to keep copy and pasting these throughout the entire percussion section, and then I'll tweak the EQ individually for each instrument. But for the most part, I'm giving everything a pretty similar treatment. Okay, for this tam-tam sound, I don't really want that that sound in there. I just kind of want that cymbal. So yeah, that sounds good. So by cutting kind of a lot of the low out of all these drums, it sounds a little weak right here, but then when I add that bass drum, it just cuts through that much more on the low end and really punches you. So I like the way that's sounding. So I thought the percussion was a little bit weak, especially on the main accents. So I found these power strikes from that same Project Sam free pack, and they just had a little more punch to them. So using those three sounds, I just added this. So just a little bit more accents, and a little bit lower end. And with that, I think that's pretty much it. So let's take a listen. So that's what I was able to make. Hopefully at least a few people learned something or were inspired in some way by this video. And be sure to check out these awesome plugins in the description. And thank you so much for watching.